Hey everybody, I'm Chris from that station. We are inside Studio J, presented by Come Here and See, and the amazing Brandy Clark is with us. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me this morning.
Thank you for being here, and first off, happy birthday.
Thanks so much.
What are the odds? I feel so blessed to have you here on your birthday.
I mean, 1 in 365, I
know.
I know, I'm blessed to be here. Before we rolled, I was saying it's really nice to be doing radio this morning, to have people want to hear my story and my music. It's, I feel pretty lucky.
You just played last night at the Carolina Theater.
Mm-hmm.
How was the show?
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful theater.
Great
Myself
room.
and Lori McKenna are doing a tour together, and the people that filled the room. The room is pretty amazing, and then the people who filled that room were even more amazing last night. They really, we were at the end of a long run of shows.
Okay.
And we always talk about how it's a dance between us and the audience, and you hope it's 50-50, but it seldom is,
Yeah.
Some nights it's like 75% on stage and 25% coming back at you. And last night, we probably came out feeling about 25%, and that audience was at 100. And
nice.
So it just makes for, just lifts us up.
I was going to say that probably impacts you as a performer. When you get that energy back, you're like, oh, they came to play.
Totally. And, not some audiences don't have that. And it's not because they're not passionate. They're just maybe last night's audience, they were there to not only listen, but to sing and to get on their feet. And, some audiences are just there to listen, which I appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
But when you're tired, that audience at the Carolina Theater is what you need.
Yeah. Let's talk about the new album that's been out for a little bit now. Tell us about it. I noticed there's some features on there. You've got Lucius. You've got Derek Trucks on a track as well. And then Brandy Carlisle produced it.
Yeah. Brandy Carlisle's a huge part of the story of this record.
Okay.
And it started, we recorded 2 songs during the pandemic, Like Mine and Same Devil. And it was meant to waterfall my last record, Your Life is a Record. Okay. And the producer that I worked with on that record, Jay Joyce, his schedule couldn't line up with mine in the way that the label needed it for a release. So a friend of mine said, what about Brandy Carlisle? Because we had worked on Beautiful Noise together.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that'd be cool. And so we did those 2 tracks, and then one of them was Same Devil was nominated for a Grammy, which was really a really pleasant surprise. I had no thought that would even happen. And Brandy tells the story that when we lost that Grammy, she looked over and she said, I looked incredibly dejected. Now, I don't remember feeling incredibly dejected. I had lost other Grammys, and I'm always happy to be asked to the party, you know, but I'm glad that she thought I looked down, because she said that it inspired her to say, hey buddy, I want to produce a whole record on you. And that was shocking to me. I don't know why, but it was. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, I see it as your return to the Northwest. And that was very intriguing, because I grew up really very close to where Brandy Carlisle lives and grew up.
Yeah.
But I've never really dove into that and written about it. There are songs on other records like Big Day in a Small Town. To me, that's Morton, Washington.
Okay.
But it's not Northwest specific. And so I really loved that idea. And I went back to the Northwest for a writing trip and wrote the song Northwest. And then, I think it brought out songs in me like She Smoked in the House about my grandma, just kind of thinking about where I was from and knowing that that's what this record, that was the catalyst for it. And so then I got in the studio with Brandy, and, you talk about some of the features. I'm a big fan of Lucius.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that to her, and she said, oh, I think we could get them on this record. And so that was pretty incredible. And they ended up singing on 3 songs. They're featured on one of them. And then Derek Trucks, when she brought that up, I was really like, wow, okay, well, I mean, if you could get him. And he had torn his studio apart, and so he told her he couldn't do it. And she's like, well, just give the song a listen. And she said that when he heard Ain't Enough Rocks, he figured out a way to do it, which makes me feel so great about the song.
Yeah.
And then obviously Dear Insecurity, Brandy said to me, how would you feel about turning that into a duet? And I said, I would love that, And she really had it in her mind that she wanted Lucinda Williams to sing the other part. And I loved that idea because I'm a Lucinda fan. But when Brandy and I sat down and she sang the scratch vocal, which became what was the record, there was a magic between us. And I remember laying up in bed that night thinking, how am I going to talk to Brandy about just it being her? And I went into her. She was in the kitchen. We were working at Shangri-La Studios. And I said, Brandy, I know you want it to be Lucinda, but I really want it to be you. And she was like, oh, buddy, all you had to do was ask, So I had put all this thought into it, and she was fine to do it. But that's one of my proudest moments ever as a songwriter, performer, recording artist. Is
it's a beautiful
Security.
Song. Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
When you started out, were you writing or singing songs first?
I was singing songs first, as a kid. And then the thing that made me even realize people wrote songs was I saw the movie Coal Miner's Daughter. And there's the scene where Sissy Spacek, who plays Loretta Lynn, is in the garden and she writes Honky Tonk Girl. It's like the first song she's written. And all of a sudden I realized, songs they don't just exist. Like people are continuing to make them up.
Yeah.
That was a big light bulb moment for me as a kid, and I started trying to write songs then. I didn't get really serious about it for a long time. 19, 20.
Do you have a preference? Like if you had to choose one of them, I guess as a performer, you'd probably always be writing, but you've written so many songs for others.
Yeah. Well, for me, it all starts with a song. Yeah. So if I had to choose, that would be what it was. Because I love to create. Yeah. I wrote a musical that's on Broadway right now.
Shucks.
With Shane McAnally. And that, just creating, I love to make up things. And when I say make up things, I love to tell stories.
Let's pivot to the Broadway show. I wanted to ask you about that. It's been nominated for 9 Tony Awards, including Best Original Score. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You wrote and scored the show.
Yes.
Right?
Shane and I, we wrote all the music and the lyrics. Now we had a music supervisor, Jason Howland, who musicalized everything. And he was actually nominated for Best Orchestration.
How did you get to that point? Was it something you've always wanted to do? To put something for Broadway?
It was a bucket list for me to write a musical because I've always loved that medium.
Yeah.
I don't think it was one that I ever thought would happen. It was just always kind of over here.
Yeah.
And when it came to us, Shane and I, 10 years ago, or now 11 years ago, but it was a 10-year process. It wasn't the time of my life that I thought it would happen. I thought it would happen later. I'm glad it happened when it did because A, it takes a long time, and B, I'd like to do more. And so, hopefully I have enough life ahead of me to do that. Because it took us 10 years, I think.
What?
Yeah.
10 years?
10 years. And, and some shows it takes 20 or, it takes what it takes.
Yeah.
I honestly think, realistically, having done it, I think the quickest you could do it is probably 5 years. Some people say 3 to 5 years. I think 5 years. It's a process.
I was going to ask you: is the approach to writing for a show like that versus writing a song, is it different? Do you go into it differently?
Yeah, it's a little different. Some of it's the same, but I think the difference is as songwriters, just in the world of popular music, we're telling a story in 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah.
With a musical, you're telling a story over a couple of hours. And so you can only tell little incremental parts of the story in songs that might be, 7 minutes long.
Right.
Like, our opening number is 7 minutes long. And there's book in there and there's, dance break, that kind of thing. But, you're taking little bits of story and making big numbers out of them.
Yeah. You have written songs for so many people. This is just a smattering. Reba, Darius Rucker, Leanne Rimes, Casey Musgraves, Keith Urban, Sheryl Crow, Miranda Lambert, Toby Keith, Jennifer Nettles. When you do that, is it difficult to release a song that you've written?
No.
No?
If it is, then I don't ever even let it be an option. Like a song like Dear Insecurity When I wrote that, I knew that was for me.
Okay.
That song never got played for anybody. You know, a lot of those people that you mentioned, I wrote songs with them, for them.
Okay.
So that never feels like
it wasn't
mine.
like you were writing a song and then you had to decide whether you were going to keep it or release it. You were actually with them.
Right. A lot of the times. Now, and also, you know, half of those I didn't. I just wrote by myself or with other writers.
Right.
But I feel like songs find the home they're supposed to find.
Yeah.
And if it's with me, I know it. Usually, you know, and sometimes, like you mentioned Keith Urban, there's a song on this album called Come Back to Me that Keith Urban, that's the song of mine he recorded in 2012. And I was driving from Salt Lake City to LA after we did a run of Shucked in Salt Lake City this time last year. And then I went to LA to make my record. And in the car, I listened to my entire catalog just with Shane McAnally, because we've written so many songs, and his publisher was kind enough to send me the catalog, and that song came on, the work tape of it. And I was like, ooh, wow. And so then I played it for my manager, and she said, you should do a work tape of that. And I did, and everybody, you know, everybody flipped out. I never would have thought that song was for me. So some of it's time, you know, like in records, like records take a certain shape, and there are certain colors you need to fill them out that you don't know you're going to want or need. But so those songs, I'm so happy to have those songs, but really a lot of them I know, you know, She Smoked in the House. I knew nobody else. I didn't even think that song would be on a record. I really just thought I was writing that for me and my grandma. So I would have never played that for anyone else.
Well, thank you so much for coming by Studio J. I know you've got your tour continues. I see you're headed to Buffalo, I think, next, right? And again, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. It's been a good one so far.